crime, it means that invariably is an impediment to development. And you talk of any project that the government would undertake, and the criminals take advantage of it to commit all sorts of financial crimes. And that would also mean that if we don't have an institution that would support prosecution of these financial crimes matters, then we are going to be at the ground zero. So what I would say is that this is a court that now is specifically established to deal with all sorts of financial crimes matters, and as I said, including corruption matters and money laundering matters. And that is also going to help in terms of fighting against both money laundering and corruption, and also including all sorts of financial crimes cases.
But if we're to look at financial crimes, Malawi has a history of delaying such crimes. Should we expect that such matters will be handled with speed now that this court has been
Yes, that's the conceptualization. So the court was conceptualized to, as I said, in response to concerns about delays. So now the delays will be a thing of the past, and then we have now specialized judges dealing with those matters, and also specialized support staff. And then when you talk of specialization, you know the advantage of that is that we'll now have matters that will be speedily dealt with, and then also all the impediments that were there, or actually I think that is the hope, that these impediments will be now, as I said, a thing of the past.
How then do you respond to allegations that your office has been controlling some officers, say the ACB and the office of the DPP?
Maybe perhaps, as I said, I think the answer will lie to the same thing about the Constitution. The Constitution that establishes the office, the Director of Public Prosecutions. There's a provision that says that the DPP only works under the direction and supervision of the Attorney General, and otherwise there's no one that has to have influence over the Director of Public Prosecutions. As well, the ACP, under the Court Practices Act, reports only to the Minister of Justice, and the President, I guess, reports to that. So I think what I would say is that if anything, there were some interface between my office and that of the DDT, and my office and the Director of Public and Director of Anti-Corruption Bureau, that would only be within the parameters, the limits of the laws, where we're supposed to do. You might have seen, perhaps, if you say this is an interference, controlling, you have seen me going to defend the Anti-Corruption Bureau when it's taken to court to say, challenging their constitutional powers to say, you have acted unconstitutionally. I think the latest case that I handled supporting the ACP was that of Batadawala and Todi, which we argued successfully in favor of the Anti-Corruption Bureau. So if that is what is called trying to control, then I can say, yes, we control in terms of collaborating, supporting them, indeed the charge of their statutory powers. But if the argument is that controlling in terms of interfering, trying to block their work, that's not correct. But the interference that I accept that we interfered is the interference within the law by supporting them in terms of giving them, providing them counsel in terms of representing them in court, or doing cases jointly with them, and then also properly guiding them on how best to prosecute certain cases. So that is the in court, the interference that we accept. So the unlawful interference, which might be from speculation, that is the unlawful interference that we say we haven't done that. The interference in court is that of collaboration and that of supporting the work of the ACP.
Malawi is going to the polls next year. How are you working with other government departments, especially the Malawi Electoral Commission, to provide counsel to them, considering that there is a new law?
Yes, again, that is, of course, made with an extension of what, how we collaborate with the institutions in Malawi. So the Electoral Commission is also established. It's both a statutory board and a constitutional body. And so in terms of the Act, that's the Malawi Electoral Commission Act, we amended it recently. There will be another amendment this year, next sitting. And that law, in fact, firstly, He says that where they need legal representation, they want to represent them in court in the Attorney General. And then, of course, they get legal counsel, legal advice from the Attorney General. So I have, on a number of occasions, given legal opinions to the Electoral Commission, and also represented them in court on a number of occasions. And then, of course, currently, we're also working on trying to smoothen or to make Malaya Electoral Commission more efficient, to make the elections more efficient and credible. And that is by actually trying to analyze the gaps that are existing below and trying to make amendments that will be to do with the speedy conclusion or prosecution of electoral districts. So there are rules that are being worked on, the amendments that are also being worked on, and soon we'll be consulting stakeholders on how these things can be improved. So there are suggestions, proposals, legislative proposals that presidential electoral districts should go straight to the Supreme Court, and that have to be determined as soon as possible. That time frames in terms of when to file, when a judgment has to be delivered, and the like. So same thing. Maybe the House of Disputes, maybe councillors, members of Parliament, pre-electoral disputes on how they are handled and the like. So these are the things that we are also working on, and this working hand in hand with the Electoral Commission. I say that briefly, there are two things, angles: legal advice that I provide to the Electoral Commission, and the legal representation that I grant to the on need basis.
2025 is just around the corner. Should we expect these amendments to be presented to Parliament soon?
These will be presented to Parliament soon, before 2025, in time for the elections, as we are preparing for the elections, as well as when voting is taking place. But as I said, these are coming from consultative processes, and these consultations, we're not doing it on our own, but there are also stakeholders, like development partners, that are also financing these reforms that would make elections more credible and more efficient, and that dispute resolutions also more efficient, and also making the Electoral Commission more accountable and more transparent.
There are some laws that need to be amended 6 months before the elections. What progress have you made so far?
So maybe what I would say is that maybe we say the target at least 6 months before the elections. So these laws, laws that support each other, they speak to each other. They include the Supreme Court Overappeal Act, the Courts Act, the Presidential, Parliamentary and Local Government Elections Act. We also be amending the Malaya Electoral Commission Act and other laws that actually support, let's say, each other in terms of the managing the elections and also post-election disputes. As I said, that the progress is maybe to say that these are at an advanced stage, and that soon there will be consultations this year with different stakeholders in terms of those proposals that have been done. And what I'll say is that I'm happy to announce that I'm part of the committee that is working on amending those laws. So there's huge progress. Maybe at this stage I would say 90%, and that they'll be soon in time ready for presentation to Parliament after the legislative processes have been completed. Those include consultations with the stakeholders as required by the Constitution, because as made aware, the Constitution requires that before you make proposals for amending a law or coming up with a new law, you need to, first of all, that's a constitutional requirement, first of all, give enough time to the public to comment on those proposals, and also give enough time for the public, the experts. The word used is canvassing of expert opinion on those legislative proposals. So these are the process that we're doing, and that we don't want, as we're doing that, to flout any procedures, also flout the provisions of the Constitution that require that we need to have consultations before you take that law to Parliament.
So what should Malawians expect once these laws are amended?
The proposals, the proposals have to do with, as I said, ensuring integrity, ensuring more and more accountability to the Electoral Commission, transparency, and then, of course, that the disputes that go to court should be resolved as soon as possible. And one of the key proposals that has been made is to go the Kenya way, where if it's a presidential electoral dispute, it goes straight to the Supreme Court, and all issues are dealt with by a full panel of the Supreme Court, not to start with the High Court and then appeal and then the delays. And then also there are strict timelines that are being proposed in terms of presenting of the electoral disputes, and also in terms of other processes, the registration processes, and then of course if you want to stand as an member of parliament, for example, councillor or a president, there are issues that also are being taken care of in the amendments, the proposed reforms. And also, we're also looking at not only coming up with the amendments to the substantive law, but also at the same time, simultaneously, we're working on the rules and also regulations governing those disputes and also the electoral processes.
In case you're just tuning in, this is MPC Exclusive with me, Alina Femlamba. My guest today is the Attorney General of Malawi, Thabo Chakaka Nyirenda. We'll be back after this short break. Welcome back. This is MPC Exclusive. My name is Alina Femlamba. My guest today is the Attorney General, Thabo Chakaka Nyirenda. All right, AG, there was a time you had to put your job on the line just to recover funds. This is a case that had to do with recovery of the AIP, procurement of fertilizer in the AIP. What did you see in this case?
I think we meant when I said that if I don't recover the money, I would resign. And I think I gave a deadline of December. Yes, so what happened was that when instructions were given to me to recover the money, because that's my duty, I was employed to actually defend government, and also represent government when government wants to recover monies, they pursue actions. So I assessed the evidence, and also, because actually that was very difficult. Everybody said that cannot happen because it involves two countries, not even two countries, because it was three countries. So that involved the United Kingdom, Ireland, Germany, that's four countries, and Estonia. I assessed and I thought I would achieve because I think I said my duty is to the nation and to the constitution, and that if I had not recovered the money, it meant that I'd failed my job. So I thought as a public officer, we need to actually set targets, and that when targets are not met, then you are failed. Then therefore that if you are failed, you need to pave way. So at that stage, at the assessor, I said all the evidence and information and all the strategies, I put in place strategies on how to recover monies, and which I did. I'm happy. I recovered the money before months before the deadline that I said I would resign if I had not recovered the money. Even though it took some time, people were demonstrating that I failed, but ultimately I managed, I succeeded, and that actually the promise that I made to the Malawians was fulfilled. So what I would say that in short, I looked at the evidence that was there, the fact and like. Of course, it was difficult because there were four countries that were involved, plus Malawi, that were five countries. But that also is an example, good example of international collaboration, that we were able for the first time collaborate with four countries and able to successfully have the monies recovered in a German court. And of course, there were the Thomas Didymus that thought that this was not going to be possible, but it was possible. I knew that was going to happen. Next time, I'll also make a similar promise on a recovery of certain things, and that I'll mean it. So therefore, that next time when I make a promise to say, if I don't do this, I'll resign, they should take my weight.
So should we expect that it will be normal for you to say, if I don't do this, I'm going to resign?
Two or three, where I'm going shortly to make a promise that I'm going to do this. If I don't, I will resign.
You seem to be a man who isn't scared of putting his job on the line.
It's not a matter of being scared of putting the job on the line. it's a matter of doing the job. So if you have failed to do the job, it means I've failed. So those that have failed have to leave before for others to do the job. So therefore, that I was not employed to just occupy a position. I was employed to discharge the responsibilities I was employed to do.
But
so
then
therefore,
the office, your office, is well known, the history as it is. Your office is well known with the fashion of leaking confidential information. Doesn't this concern you?
I'm also sure whether I found any document that leaked from my office, but I'm also aware of a law that people are not aware of, most public officers. We call it the Official Secrets Act. There's all sorts of criminal offenses if one leaks documents that are secret and official. So, as I said, my role is to advise on the implementation of the law and how best those laws are implemented. And one law that I need to advise, I've been advising on, and actually religiously safeguard that law, is the Official Secrets Act, which for public officers, if they leak that information, is an offense. But I also know that there are limitations because journalists are immune. When that information is found in possession of journalists, you cannot take anything. But should that public officer be found with that official information or found to have leaked that information, it's a criminal offense under the Official Secrets Act. But of course, I know that there is immunity to journalists under the Access to Information Act, that you can get whatever secret information possible and you cannot be prosecuted. But public officers, therefore, that they cannot run away from that. They won't be immune. So, as I said, that I think maybe the secret will be religiously adhering to the provisions of the Official Secrets Act.
So, what role have you played with regards to operations of Salima Sugar Company?
Yeah. First of all, last time I mentioned that that's one of the headaches that we had as a country. So many headaches that we had as a country, and so many of the many things that I've worked on the headache in terms of sorting out the debt burden, because Salima Sugar was established through a loan that we are repaying for now from Exim Bank of India, $78 million loan, and that it was heavily mismanaged. And the concept was that it should compete with the Lovo, and that we also need to diversify sources of foreign currency. Therefore, that I think, as I mentioned, that in 2019, not from Salima Sugar, but from Ilovo, we had $85.6 million as export earnings. So my role was to advise in terms of the governance issues in Salima Sugar, and then, of course, those multiple breaches that were committed by the so-called investors in court. For those who were not genuine investors in Salima Sugar, who were lucky, they never brought in any capital in the company, but they were given majority shareholding, which was so unfair to the country, and also so unfair because those loans that we're repaying for now, and are also subject to the International Monetary Fund in terms of restructuring the debt. You and me and our sisters, brothers, mothers, and helping in repaying those funds. So my concern was to reconfigure Salima Sugar, reconfigure the governance issues in Salima Sugar, and that we should be able now, moving forward, be able to benefit from the development that was there in Salima Sugar, that maybe when we're talking about generating $85.6 million in 2019, we should be talking about tripling the export earnings, also actually trying to have adequate sugar in the country. So maybe in short, because of time, you mentioned that this was my law, advisory in terms of sorting out governance issues, advisory in terms of getting rid of the dodgy, dubious investors, and advisory in terms of recalibrating the Salima Sugar company.
So what lesson have you learned? What lesson should Malawi learn from the Salima Sugar issue?
The first thing is that maybe in terms of allocating risks, in terms of due diligence that is required for everything, because as a government we need to learn that when we're establishing these institutions, we should operate as a business, and that's why we can move forward. So I've always said that, that's my advice, that whenever you're embarking or before you embark on any transaction, you need to do all the 4 due diligence. These include the business due diligence, financial due diligence, legal due diligence, anti-money laundering due diligence. These are a must do. So these things were not even done, and therefore that we also ended up in that mess. And this is where, of course, that's just one of the main examples of the issue that I'm handling. Maybe that those are public. But these are issues that when we do them properly, when we're talking of, as I said, the unique role of my office, I advise on implementing the law, also an advice on which laws to implement, formulate. And that, of course, would trigger said development, because anything that happens has support of the law. So if we comply with the law, that means that if we also look at make things that they're acceptable business-wise, acceptable financial-wise, then we'll be able to move forward. So this one of the bad examples, maybe we could say Salima Sugar was a bad role model for the country. So now we want Salima Sugar to be a good role model. And I said these are amongst the many things that I've been working on. You might be aware as well that recently I worked on a matter involving carbon credit over Korakota Game Reserve, Nika National Park, and Vaza Game Reserve, where we had over $17 million, which was being kept offshore in the bank house in Malawi, and was subjected to what we call an authorized push payment fraud, where fraudsters hacked the accounts and transferred money to Australia. And then I worked on it, and so far we working towards recovering the whole amount. But so far we have 9 point something, almost $10 million recovered, now sitting in Malawi, a bank account in Malawi. And those also are the things that, when you look at it, to say we never, as a country, were able to properly assess our risks, allocate our risks in terms of how to safeguard our resources. So carbon credit is something that people don't know. And these are resources. So
much as the resources are there, can you look into Malawians right now? Tell them 3 cases, the few years you've been in office, just 3 cases you are proud to have served your country.
I will not be able to mention those 3 cases.
Major cases.
Well, I would say that each case that I handle is a major case. I've given one example for the medicine. We recover the bus deposit for now. But it will not rank higher than the others. So we had not only the bus depots and the workshops, but we also were able to recover money from Germany. We're able, of course, now to recover money that were lost. The thing that people don't know, that we are able to generate money from carbon credit, which recently the Minister of Finance announced. That is one of his top priorities in terms of diversifying sources of foreign currency. And there's so many cases. So I would say we were able now to get back the shares from Salima Sugar that we got, which is actually a subject of the debt stress, the debt burden that, of course, I think you and me, your brothers, your sisters, cousins are suffering and repaying. Those are some of them. But what I would say, I would not say these are the cases that I would be proud of. I've handled hundreds of cases, and each of them, I would say, I'm proud of all those cases, because each of them, those cases are unique. They actually bring a unique dimension. They are unique in terms of contributing to the welfare of the Malawians and to the economic welfare of the country.
Attorney General, it was a pleasure having you in this edition.
Thank you so much.
And that's what we had for you in this edition of the NBC Exclusive. My guest today was the Attorney General, Thabo Chakaka Nyirinda. Until next time, my name is Alina Felamba. Goodbye.
Inu, Tamvelani, Zajitikanso Tukumbaranata Private Academy, the #1